Is it possible to travel with just a few basic Mandarin patterns? Are these patterns useful for more than just travel? Absolutely. In this episode, we'll use simple patterns to help you get around and build a strong foundation in Mandarin. We'll also go beyond survival and show you how to level up your speech so you're ready to shine in any conversation. They call it learning, we say it's fun. Welcome to Fun Mandarin 玩中文。大家好, I'm Brian. When traveling, being friendly costs nothing and pays off big. If you know 你好, it's definitely a good start. But what should we say after 你好? Try using the first simple pattern 我是 to share a bit about yourself, like your name and nationality. For example,
我是 Bruna. 我是巴西人.
You can even emphasize by using the negative form 不是. For example,
我是 Bruna. 不是 Bruno.
A quick question for you. The pinyin for 不 in 不是 is marked as the fourth tone. But when saying it, which tone should we change? That's right. We should change the tone to the second tone as it is pronounced as 不是, not 不是. After a quick hello and self-intro, we got 5 super useful patterns for asking questions. Using them will certainly make your travel much easier. So, what's the most important thing to have when you travel? For me, it's Wi-Fi. Getting around without the internet can be tough, but it's easy to ask by using our second pattern, 有没有. 有 means have, 没有 means don't have. When we put them together, it becomes the question, is there or do you have? So, is there Wi-Fi would be 有没有 Wi-Fi? We can also use 吗 to form the question. 有吗 is the same as asking 有没有. So, another way to ask is 有 Wi-Fi 吗? More examples like 有插座吗? 有充电线吗? 有转接头吗? We can upgrade this pattern from survival to shine by adding 请问, which literally means may I ask. It's a very polite way to begin a question, especially when speaking to strangers. For example, when asking for a power bank in Taiwan, we can say 请问有行动电源吗? 请问有行动电源吗? 行动 literally means mobile or portable. 电源 means power source. Together, 行动电源 is a power bank. In China, a power bank is commonly called 充电宝, which literally means charging treasure. So, in China, we can ask, 请问有充电宝吗? 请问有充电宝吗? We can also add 你们, especially when speaking to staff at a restaurant or hotel. For example, 请问你们有电脑吗? 请问你们有电脑吗? After asking 有吗 to check if something is available, we can follow up with the second pattern to ask for permission or make a polite request by saying 可以吗? or 可以不可以? or simply 可不可以? For example, after asking 有转接头吗? If you want to borrow it, you can say 可以借我吗? or 可不可以借我? When we need some help, we can politely ask 可以帮我吗? or 可不可以帮我? We can also use this pattern 可以吗 or 可不可以 when it comes to making a payment at a store or a restaurant. For example, 可以刷卡吗？可不可以刷卡？可以付现吗？可不可以付现？ If you want to pay by your phone, mobile payment 行动支付 is also widely used in Taiwan and China. In Taiwan, one of the common mobile payment options is called Line Pay, while in China, 支付宝 is popular. So if you have any of these apps on your phone to pay, just ask 可以用 Line Pay 吗？可以用支付宝吗？ Since we know how to ask about payment, don't forget to ask for the price before you pay. We can simply ask 多少钱？多 means a lot and 少 means very little. When combined, 多少 becomes the question word for how much or how many. 钱 means money. Asking about the price would be 多少钱? If you are asking about a specific item, you can hold it or point to it and ask 这个多少钱？这个多少钱？ If you're buying a lot of things, you can ask 一共多少钱？一共多少钱？ You've probably heard that bargaining is part of the Chinese shopping culture. But honestly, it really depends on where you're shopping. At markets or night markets, you can try your luck at negotiating by saying 太贵了，太贵了, and then offer a price. Let's check out the example. 这个多少钱？100块。太贵了，50块好吗？90块，已经打折卖你了，再便宜一点吧，55块。80块，不能再低了，我不买了。哎，看你帅的份上，65块，赔钱卖你，可以刷卡吗？我们只收现金。我没有钱，我不买了。Asking about time is also important. The easiest way to do this is by saying 几点. You can also make the question more specific like 几点去？几点去？几点出发？几点出发？几点回来？几点回来？ If you're in a hotel, you might need to ask 几点退房？几点退房？几点吃早饭？几点吃早饭？ We can use 几点 to ask about transportation times too. For example, to ask about the departure time of a train, 几点开？几点开？ Or a more advanced version, 几点发车？几点发车？几点开 can also be used to ask about store or restaurant opening hours. To be more specific, we can add 门, which literally means door. So we can also say 几点开门？关 means to close. So if we want to ask about the closing time, what should we say? That's right. We can simply ask 几点关 or 几点关门? Asking for places and directions is a very common situation every traveler may encounter. A simple way to do this is by using the pattern 在哪儿 or 在哪里. 哪儿 is more commonly used in China, while 哪里 is preferred in Taiwan. One of the first things you'll probably need to ask about is where the restroom, toilet or loo is. As you can see, in English, there are so many different words for this place. Funny enough, Mandarin is the same. The first one we should know is 厕所. So we can use 在哪儿 or 在哪里 to ask. 厕所在哪儿 or 厕所在哪里. 厕所 is the most direct word, similar to saying toilet in English. If you want to sound a bit more indirect, you can use 洗手间, which literally means hand washing room, which is used both in Taiwan and China. Or 化妆室, which literally means makeup room. 化妆室 is more commonly used in Taiwan, while in China, 卫生间, which means hygiene room, is more widely used. If the place you're looking for is really close, so close that people can just point you to it, then 在哪儿 or 在哪里 is sufficient. But when the place isn't nearby, understanding directions can feel a bit overwhelming. In that case, you can use the pattern 可以吗 that we just covered to ask for help, like this. 你可以带我去吗？你可以带我去吗？ This is definitely a must-have survival phrase. But if you're ready to shine and want to practice more direction-related words, here are some essentials for you. 直走，直走，左转，左转，右转，右转，附近，附近，旁边，旁边，前面，前面，左手边，左手边，右手边，右手边。附近有素食餐厅吗？有啊。请问在哪里？你从这里直走，看到红绿灯后右转，再走500公尺后左转，然后再直走。你会看到前面有一个公园，素食餐厅就在左手边。你可以带我去吗？好啊，我刚好顺路。谢谢。Besides asking questions, knowing how to say what you want can really make things easier, especially when you're traveling. The most direct way is to say 我要, which means I want something. 要 can also function as a modal verb, meaning will do something, but here we will focus on its meaning as want. For example, in a restaurant, we can say 我要咖啡，我要咖啡，我要炸鸡，我要炸鸡。We can also specify the amount we want. 我要一杯咖啡，我要一杯咖啡，我要3块炸鸡，我要3块炸鸡。Not sure about measure words? Get some tips and practice with this episode later. Now, back to the sentence pattern. 我要。We can give more details about our preference, like food and drink. For example, talking about how the coffee you like, you can say 我要加糖 or 我不要加糖，我要加冰块。 or 我不要加冰块. Talking about how the food you like. For example, 我要加辣椒，我不要加香菜. Sometimes saying 我要 can sound a bit direct or demanding, depending on your tone of voice. If you like to sound a bit softer or more polite, you can use 我想要. For example, 我想要一杯绿茶. This sounds like saying, I would like a cup of green tea. 我要一杯绿茶. This is more like saying, I want a cup of green tea. Just like expressing your preferences, mentioning any dietary restrictions is also important, whether you're with friends or at a restaurant. When we want to say we cannot do something because of personal reasons, like health or dietary restrictions, we use 我不能. For example, 我不能喝酒，我不能喝酒. Remember earlier we said 可以 means can, and 不可以 means cannot. So, what's the difference between 不可以 and 不能, since both translate to cannot in English? Let's look at these two sentences. 我不可以喝酒，我不能喝酒. Both sentences mean I cannot drink alcohol, but there's a slight difference in meaning. Let's expand the sentences to make it clearer. 我不可以喝酒，因为我要开车。我不可以喝酒，因为我要开车。Another example. 我不能喝酒，因为我对酒精过敏。我不能喝酒，因为我对酒精过敏. Now, it's easier to see the differences, right? When we say 我不可以喝酒, it means I am not allowed to drink due to external restrictions, such as laws, religious reasons, family rules, or cultural taboos. But when we say 我不能喝酒, it refers to an inability to drink due to personal reasons, such as allergies, medical conditions, or health issues. Simply put, 不可以 is like not allowed to. 不能 is like unable to. Now we've got some patterns to ask questions and talk about our preferences. It's time to make some positive comments or give a compliment. A simple way to do this is by saying 太好了. It literally means too good, and 了 at the end expresses strong emotion or enthusiasm. It's not related to grammatical aspect here, as we mentioned in another episode. 太好了 is a great way to say that's fantastic. We can also use the pattern to make other positive comments. For example, if the food is delicious, we can say 太好吃了，太好吃了. If the drink is tasty, 太好喝了，太好喝了. If the song sounds lovely, 太好听了，太好听了. If the dress looks stunning, 太好看了，太好看了. If the amusement park is really fun, 太好玩了，太好玩了. If the shopping mall has everything, 太好逛了，太好逛了. And when your friend has helped you a lot, instead of just saying 谢谢, you can emphasize your appreciation with 你人太好了，你人太好了. After trying your best, if it's still a bit confusing for you or others, this final question will be your lifesaver. That is, ask if anyone can speak English or your preferred language. Simply ask, 你会说英语吗? Or, 你会说日语吗? Or, 你会说西班牙语吗? As you can see, 会, 能, and 可以 all translate to can in English. But here's a quick note. 会 means to know how to or to be able to, often implying a learned skill. 可以 is more about asking whether something is allowed or possible in a given situation. 能 focuses on whether someone has the ability or capacity to do something. So, the most natural way to ask, can you speak English, is 你会说英语吗? Other examples using 会, 你会游泳吗? Swimming is a learned skill, so we have to use 会. 你会开车吗? Because driving requires training, so we have to use 会. These are the top 10 patterns everyone should know for travel, but they're also useful in many everyday situations. If you're interested in practical, authentic Mandarin phrases, be sure to follow my Ko-fi page. I've created a series of posts called Pocket Phrases. As the name suggests, these phrases are like handy tools everyone should keep in their pocket, ready to use whenever needed. You can easily find them on Ko-fi. My Ko-fi page isn't just for donations. It's where I share Mandarin tips, vocabulary, and tools. You'll find both free and paid resources to suit your needs. Just like in this episode, I use spider diagrams, or as I like to call them, word webs, to organize vocabulary. They're a great way to expand your vocabulary more efficiently and effectively. If you'd like to boost your vocabulary even more, you can find them on my Ko-fi page now. 谢谢收看 Fun Mandarin 玩中文，我们下次见。